Tonight, I want to speak with you about our nation's unprecedented response to the coronavirus outbreak that started in China and is now spreading throughout the world. Today, the World Health Organization officially announced that this is a global pandemic.
It all happened so fast, you know? I mean, all of a sudden, February is normal and March we're closed.
It was scary. Like the movie Outbreak, I thought, oh my God, you know, we're not gonna survive this. How is this? How do I protect my children? How do I protect myself? It was very scary, especially the way the media portrayed it, the government portrayed it. I thought, like, that's it. This is it. This is what's gonna finish us. So it was truly a scary, scary situation that we all had to go through. So it wasn't only for me, but obviously it was scary. My fear was like, how am I gonna protect my children? That was my biggest thing. And then obviously being a business owner, how is this gonna affect me?
The number of cases of COVID-19 outside China has increased 13-fold. And the number of affected countries has tripled.
So I remember hearing that, like, we might have to shut down and have to quarantine. I was like, wait, what? You know, it started to get so serious. So it started to get scary for the reasons that, you know, you start to hear all these things, we're gonna shut down. And the first thing you start to think of, well, everything's gonna be shut down. What do we do? What's gonna happen?
Fast-breaking developments in the coronavirus emergency in the U.S. and around the world. The number of cases soaring just today, more than 24,000 now nationwide. New Jersey today becoming the 6th state to close all non-essential businesses, joining California, New York, Illinois, Pennsylvania, and Nevada. More than 80 million Americans now told to stay at home.
I was sure I was going to get sick and die. That's just the way I am, you know? I'm a horribilizer. Anyway. So, yeah, I take it seriously.
I thought it was like a hoax. You know, it wasn't nothing that we haven't been through before that's been thrown out there. You know, you have AIDS, you have all these different things. So I just thought it was another thing being thrown out there that the government was doing. So I was kind of like, we'll just see how it plays out, but I didn't take it seriously at all.
I feel like hearing the news too starts to really overwhelm you because you really don't know what's true, what's not true. You kind of have to inform yourself, and that's the hardest thing to do just because there's so much fake news and you don't know what to believe and where to really get your resources from. So I think that was the hardest thing, just being overwhelmed with everything you see and hear. And then people telling you this and people telling you that. So it's like, what's really going on? What's actually the cause of this? Like, what's behind all this, really? So
I heard of it from the news that it was back in China, so I wasn't sure if that was a real thing. I thought that was just a joke, kind of like a movie kind of thing, you know. I didn't think it was real.
I took it serious because, once again, the way the media and the government portrayed it, you know, if you don't take care of yourself, you're gonna die. It wasn't even we had no cure. So I did take it seriously. I did make sure I stayed inside, try to follow all the CDC guidelines as fast as we could. You know, there's only so much you can do, but you know, it was hard. I didn't leave my house for like 6 months straight because my husband was like, I'll do the shopping, I'll do the working, and that's about it. So yeah, I followed by the guidelines once again, portraying by what the exaggeration of the media was doing to us.
I didn't believe it at first. And I truly believe that it was not just all of a sudden it appeared. Something was behind it. And I don't know, I can't tell you what it was. I don't know what it is.
I feel like the government was, in my opinion, I feel like it was a lot of government control. I feel like for a minute there, we even thought, this is how they're gonna control population, because Bill Gates had said it. There's too many people. He has some radical ideas that to him was, it makes sense for this earth, but it doesn't make sense for somebody that's an average person like myself. I'm not a multi-billionaire like he is. So it didn't make sense to me after a while. Everybody, social media, the internet, the news, it was all a mass hysteria, and everybody was going into a panic, and that's when everybody was mass shopping, the stores were packed. You couldn't find certain things because everybody was hoarding. So it was hard. The media, I'm not saying that all media is wrong. I'm saying some of the stuff that they tend to exaggerate, and it gives the public fear. And mass hysteria is the worst you can do. And obviously it wasn't only in our country, but it was across all over the world. So no one was safe from this. So it was horrifying at the time.
I just think it's all happened really fast. You didn't really have a chance to plan for it.
I started hearing a lot of people getting the COVID. So that's when I realized, I was like, oh, okay, I think we do have to close down. So now that I see what was the whole ordeal, then now I can see that it was necessary for us.
Yeah, same thing to me. Now, I think it was really necessary. Yes, definitely.
We shut down. And for that month, everybody just stayed home. And I was the only one coming to work. And anything that we do, I would sub out to vendors, and we made nothing here. And we went from doing about $50,000 a month to we did $8,000 that month.
The virus. They're working hard. Looks like by April, in theory, when it gets a little warmer, it miraculously goes away. I hope that's true. But we're doing great in our country. China, I spoke with President Xi, and they're working very, very hard. And I think it's going to all work out fine. Rough stuff, I tell you, rough stuff. But I think it's going to work out good. It comes from China.
I think our president at the time, that was Trump, I don't think he even took it serious either.
Saturday, I had a little low-grade fever.
Uh-oh.
So, actually, probably a GI thing. But I'm meticulous. I'm a physician.
He downplayed it. And that's when a lot of people started, wait a minute, my husband would say like this, unless I see the government running and hiding, then I'll take it serious. But they weren't running and hiding. They were wearing their masks. They were doing their 6 feet apart from each other. But I didn't see them running. I didn't see them hiding. I didn't see fear in any of it. Obviously, they're not going to go on camera and be like, oh, this is scary. But sometimes you could see the people feel their energy. Like, that's when things started clicking. This doesn't make sense. How are they not worried? But they're trying to make the mass of us worry and scared. I mean, you have people scared. People are just mean. I think this pandemic made people self-absorbed and selfish, mean. People, remember when 9/11 happened and everybody was like, we're united, we're the states, we're together, we should come in unity. And this was nothing that I seen in 9/11. Everybody was against each other and no one was helping each other out. Everybody was bashing, everybody was pointing fingers. No one was taking responsibility. The CDC said one thing, then they said something else. Dr. Fauci would say one thing, Trump would contradict him. It was just chaotic behind the scenes with the government, that's when people started saying, wait a minute, how serious is this? And then obviously we had this lockdown, and I was really hurtful.
When it comes to politics, it gets pretty twisted.
For so long, there was this I don't know what to call it, but just outright lies about it not being anything, that people weren't sick. It was just all this craziness that were coming from the president.
You know what I said? I don't remember. Get me off of this stage. Get me off. Get me off of this stage.
You didn't know what to believe or who to believe. And people were discrediting the guy Fauci from the CDC, and it was all just terrible, and people were dying. I mean, my wife's mother, she was about 90, she caught COVID and passed. And of course, being the way I am, I was sure I was going to get it and die. It was just, I could not get it out of my head. So, I wore a mask. I had the antibacterial soap. Every day I wiped down every counter in here before I opened. I wiped all the phones down. I wiped the computer keyboards down. And we put up signs outside. And we put down the social distancing markers.
My mom's been a small business owner for 30 plus years, and that's where, where we eat from, that's the roof over our head. So it was really challenging for her, and to see her have to shut down, just because I get emotional. My mom's a hardworking woman, and so it was desperate times to call for desperate needs. So my mom's building next door, and so luckily she's right next door. So we definitely had to keep the salon closed but open, because that's where we had to pay our bills. We had to come up with rent for the shop, pay the mortgage. So we really had to take it serious, but with, be cautious at the same time. I shut down the fashion boutique, and my mom did still take in some clients, and it's crazy to see that the beauty industry came to a stop, because you never really see that come to a stop. And, people kind of saw that it was essential. People needed to get haircuts. People needed to do their hair. In today's world, you can go without doing it, but you may not look professional wherever you work. So it was definitely very challenging. I would say we took it serious as far as, we had to wear our mask and, definitely disinfect, be cautious. Just being cautious was the most important thing, just because, like I said, your health is not something to play around with. But it was hard when you have to find a way to make, you have to find a way to make money when you're a small business owner.
Many people died. I had a lot of loved ones die and friends. Am I downplaying the COVID? No. It was real, but I don't think it was like they blame it. I honestly think it was a man-made. I may be wrong, but I feel like that was a way of population control. I lost my uncle, my dad's brother. I lost friends. I lost family in Mexico, and in Mexico was even worse. If you don't have money, you don't get oxygen. So it was scary. But I was so angry because I feel, and I still feel it, that this was a man-made, but they just wanted to blame somebody, as typical as it always is. And I might be off the wall wrong, but once again, that's my opinion, and that's how I perceive it. And I'm pretty sure there's a lot of people that probably feel the same way that as I do. COVID did exist. It does exist.
When the governor said, I'm making all the businesses shut down, I didn't want to, because like I was doing really good, and I didn't think it was anything that was big and serious, because I'm like, I don't get sick, and I don't typically ever get sick. May get a cold, and that's every now and again, but that's it. One day I'm down, next day I'm keeping it pushing with work. So when they were saying close down, I'm like, how am I supposed to eat? What am I supposed to do? I'm not gonna close down. So that was my thought process, but when they made it where you have to close down, I closed down. But my thought process was, this is a move. And as time went, you got to see folks dying more and more. And even then I'm thinking, well, so that's old people. Not that it makes it okay, but I'm not old. Like a grandma or a grandpa old. This is still probably a hoax. Government's doing something just to, they got some kind of motive behind this. That was my thought process. So as time kept going, you get to see little by little, more and more how serious it was. And then somebody I know passed away from it, and it was a barber that I knew, who I looked up to as a barber. And he was way younger than me. And I was like, whoa, okay, this is hitting kind of close to home. Thank God it hadn't happened to nobody in our family, but he was close to me. And on top of that, he was young. So I'm like, if it can get to him, it could for sure get to me or anybody.
There's too many people dying. Too many people sick. I mean, a lot of the people who were sick, you don't talk about it, but they didn't get better. They have long-lasting illnesses and things like that, that were caused by the virus.
There was an incident that, because we didn't believe yet that we had to lock down, we had an undercover class in our studio back then, and we talked to the students, and everybody agreed to come to the class. And because nobody really was scared of it yet, we were just like, oh yeah, we'll just take measurements. It was only less than 10 people in the classroom, remember?
Yeah, we were 7.
It was 7 of us, and then we were, of course, we didn't know what the measurements were, like what do we have to do for not, getting ourselves caught in this whole COVID thing. But we were there teaching, and all of a sudden, and then we closed doors, and we had this curtain that we put over so it looked like it was closed. And all of a sudden we hear a knocking on the door, and it was the police. So I guess someone around there saw us going into the business, a lot of us, in quote unquote, because it was a lot of us, it was only 7 of us. And I guess they called the police. So the police came on us and they told us, what are you guys doing here? So the first thing I said is like, oh, we're just practicing makeup, you know? And we didn't get a fine or anything. We just were told to leave. You know, we couldn't be doing any social anything there. So yeah, we had to, that was the day that we really had to close down. And that was days after, you know, the government told us to close down and everything. So we kind of didn't follow the rules at the beginning because we needed to stay open because that was our only source of income at that moment.
I started my business in May 28, 2019. The same day that I quit my corporate job, I started Lola's Tacos. And I started doing pop-ups and I was starting to take off. And in March, when they locked us down, I lost 6 months of business. That was my bread and butter. How are we not essential? How are people like supposed to survive out of that? We have bills to pay. The utilities are not gonna stop. They need their money. My mortgage payments needed to happen. And I even canceled my wedding party because everybody was scared. The last event I did on March of a pop-up, hardly anyone showed up because everybody was scared. Then soon after that, we were on complete lockdown and no one's supposed to leave. Luckily at the time, my husband was a truck driver. He was considered essential. He was in-state truck driver. He was just hauling aggregate, nothing like groceries or anything like that. And he would be the only one that do the grocery shopping. He wouldn't allow us to leave the house because he was afraid. When everybody was hoarding toilet paper, my husband was hoarding ammo because he says, if somebody tries to break into our house, the toilet paper isn't gonna cover it. It's gonna be a revolver in their face.
I remember seeing a video of a coworker posting and they brought out the toilet paper and it's like just a swarm of ants just like attack the toilet paper and people are literally they're just like here grabbing stuff. And you know, at that time the toilet paper was put to a limit, you know, like there was a limit now on how much toilet paper you can buy. There was a limit on how much water you can buy. And I mean, I don't know what the reason was for, you know, the toilet paper. I don't understand because at the same time it was a lockdown, but you were still able to get these things. And I feel like the news of just like putting it out there, people were like, okay, now I need to go get toilet paper. Now I need to go get this. And it was, I don't know, it was pretty crazy. It was pretty funny, but crazy.
Of all the shortages we have, there's a gasoline shortage. You know what else is disappearing from the supermarket shelves? Toilet paper. Ha ha ha, you can laugh now.
You don't have to buy so much. Take it easy. Just relax.
When it comes to, you know, the financial help for folks, or at least just to keep everybody afloat. I mean, because if you can't work, how do you provide and, you know, pay bills or live? Yeah, I feel like it put everybody in a position to be in survival mode. And we know when folks are in survival mode, you're in just that, which means you're gonna go beyond any means to do what you gotta do to get what you want or what you need to be able to take care of your family. So had the government put things in place where it made sure families were taken care of when it came to, you know, the rent at home, food, you know, the necessary things. I don't mean shopping and buying some new Jordans and nothing like that. I mean, you know, you have a car payment, you have a house note, food on the table, electricity, water, stuff like that. Absolutely something should have been in place. And they didn't do none of that. The $1,200 check wasn't doing nothing. That was just barely, if anything, covering rent.
Yeah, I'm understanding that it could be maybe some direct payments in lieu of state and local. It wouldn't be more than $1,200, but I think it'll be in the $600, probably $500-600 range.
In 3 weeks, the IRS will directly deposit $1,200 into your bank account.
$1,200? What was it, like? That wasn't enough. That's why I thought the government was like, are you joking? Are you kidding me? You really think we're gonna survive off of this? Pennies? While they were too busy making their money, even when they weren't working. God forbid, when they were having their, we're having a strike, or we're not gonna work. But yet they're still making their money. They're still preaching like, we are one. No, shut up, you are not one with us. You do not know what the average man, woman goes through. You do not know. They don't know. Why? Because it's the government. They love people to go smoke up their ass, and they love doing that to others. Smoke and mirrors over here and there. They don't care. They only care about what's for them. There's maybe a few, small government officials that actually genuinely care.
Receiving those checks was helpful, but not as helpful as it could have been, just because I feel like it took a while to actually receive some help. And even then, for some people, it wasn't enough help, I mean, families, that have kids, and some people have more than one kid, some people have more than 2 kids, and they're expensive, people have to eat, kids have to eat, people have to pay bills, pay their mortgage. And, it was sad because people were on the verge of ending up on the street. And since then, unfortunately, I have seen a lot more people on the street, it's really sad, just because it affected a lot of people.
They don't care. I'm sorry. But yeah, that money was a joke. I mean, yeah, we put it aside, but what is that gonna do? How are you supposed to survive? You've seen the cost of living in California. Arizona is getting to the same place. We're the #1 state with the highest increase of housing. The prices are going up so high. We're almost California. And that money that they gave us was a joke. They should have just opened up. But instead, they wanted to make us lazy and give us money. Open up. I kept telling them, why can't they just open up? Why can't they just open up these restaurants? McDonald's could open, Walmart could open, but they wouldn't open up restaurant. Once again, doesn't make sense to me. COVID doesn't go in there, but it goes in here. Like, explain that to me. Can you elaborate? No, nobody could. It was just an excuse for them to control us. That's what the government did in that time when the pandemic hit. They were trying to kind of like sheep control us out. They were the shepherds. They were trying to put us in an area where they could control all of us. Until people started saying, enough. That's enough. I don't want to do this shit anymore.
I think they tried to do the best they could with the shutdown.
It was so sad to see businesses. These are people's livelihoods. These are cooks, dishwashers, chefs, owners, management, supervisors, cashiers. They didn't have a job. What did the government want to do? Here, let me give you some money. Let me give you some money. Let's make you lazy now. Sorry, I'm gonna call it as it is. Let's make you lazy and not work. Let's help you survive. Help them survive, open back up again. Let people work. Let us go back. We'll follow your CDC guidelines. We'll wear a mask. I can't sit here, but I can sit here. You're not vaccinated, so you can't sit there. You're vaccinated, so you can sit here. That doesn't make sense. Fast forward to now, what? Oh, vaccinated or not? You guys could be around each other. Wait a minute. So what was that whole fiasco about? Because we weren't sure. We're still not sure now. You still don't know what you're doing. You hurt a lot of businesses, a lot of mom and pop shops that have been in business for years, closed down. I thought I was like, I've only been doing this for 8 months and I already have to close down. I want to do this. I don't want to work for anyone. I want to work for myself. Isn't that the American dream, to be a business owner? The backbone of America, I think, it's small businesses. And me, being a woman, Mexican American, born in Tijuana, Mexico, and raised in this country, I am the first of my generation in this country to do something like that. And I take pride. So when you come at somebody like me or somebody that's been in the business for 20 years and you just crush it, no, I'm not gonna give it to you. You're just gonna have to close. You're gonna have to follow my rules, but how am I supposed to feed my family? Like I said, luckily my husband was working. But even then, he took away part of our income. Oh, I'm sorry.
We're continuing to negotiate with the Democrats to get our great workers and small businesses all over the country taken care of. I think we're getting close to a deal. Could happen. Could happen. A lot of good work has been going on, and we could have an answer tomorrow. And we're going to see what exactly does take place.
I remember being on the phone with management here, because you still got to pay rent. How am I supposed to pay for rent if I'm not able to be in there working? You know, there's no way. You know, and it comes to one of the things, well, it sounds kind of personal. Not saying they said that, but, you know, there's no other way around it. You know, so, yeah, there was no way of, I didn't know what I was going to do. And they actually worked with me, the guys here, but there came a point where it was like, okay, you know.
It sucked to see what was essential and what really wasn't essential, you know? Because what's to say, you know, Target was still open. Yeah, their grocery, Costco was still open. And yeah, those are all grocery stores, you know, people still needed to get food and all that. But and it's just, it sucked, you know, that small business had to close, and a lot of small businesses had to shut down. It was harder for small businesses to have to shut down just because who knows what really goes behind the doors, how much of struggle they're already going through. So it sucked to see that side and see Costco still, you know, thriving.
It was a really harsh decision because, yeah, they were thinking for the rest of the people, but how about the people who actually have those business, you know? So it was hurtful, I think, to close down, you know, this non-essential business.
They said only the essential workers are allowed to work. Wait a minute. That doesn't make sense to me. Does the COVID not go in there, but it goes COVID into restaurants? There's a lot of people that lost their business. You would see it on the TV. That's sad. Because this is our dream, to own a business. It doesn't matter if it's food, it's just any business. And then to have it taken away like that because you have no means of being able to pay it because you can't afford it, it sucks.
Money from PPP loans went to people with incomes well over $100,000. And that's the money that went out to legitimate businesses. In the past 2 years, our I-Team investigations have found PPP loan fraud was rampant. Millions of dollars from the program ended up in the hands of fake businesses.
I got PPP, and it was very helpful. Matter of fact, I didn't fill out the documents correctly the first time, and they contacted me and let me know what I needed to do, and I did it, and we got the money.
Yeah, those were like almost impossible to get. The forgivable loans or the grants that were being given out. You heard about them, but I didn't get them. Those would have totally helped.
You think the government was gonna give me money? The government didn't give me money because I didn't have enough employees. I didn't qualify for any of those loans. A lot of people took advantage of those loans. And you know what they did? They bought themselves houses. It was for their business. I know a lot of people that did other things with that money. And it sucks because there was people that really needed it. Then you had big corporate restaurants that got hundreds of thousands of dollars, where mom and pop shop got $5,000, $10,000. Why couldn't they get the same? Prime example, famous chef Silvana. She owns Barrio Cafe here in Phoenix, Arizona. She's been in business forever. She's one of the top 10 female Mexican LGBTQ chefs. She's top notch, one of the best females. Like, I admire her, genuinely admire her.
One local chef announced the permanent closing of one of her restaurants in Phoenix, the Barrio Cafe Gran Reserva. We spoke with Chef Silvana Salcedo Esparza about what happened and what her plans are next.
It was so hard to see one of her restaurants close down. And yet she was feeding the community and trying to keep her business afloat.
Those big corporations capitalized on all that. They got even richer. We got poor, not poorer, but poorer than we were at that time before this took place, So that also was very frustrating, knowing that blatantly was going on. That wasn't a misunderstanding that rich folks were getting even richer and getting all those grants. That was happening. Expeditiously too. It's crazy.
Steakhouses and these big other companies got hundreds of thousands of dollars to bail them out. How fucked up is that? They have hundreds of thousands of dollars, but you can't help a small mom and pop shop. Let me just give you a few here and there. Yes, some did get some money. But instead of giving hundreds of thousands of dollars to bail out McDonald's, why don't you give that to a smaller company? Why don't you just divide that into all these small companies? Oh, and they made you jump through hoops to qualify for that. Yeah, you don't have enough employees. We're not. Oh, yeah, you haven't been in business that long, so we're not going to give you money. So guess what? You figured out how to survive.
We come from a culture where back in Mexico, we don't really ask for help from the government because the government is not really there for the people. So we're not used to asking for help. Here, I know there's aids of help and for everyone, but our goal has always been not to
Rely
on any government help. And it's not because we don't want to, it's just, I don't know, it's just a different thought.
Folks that getting these grants and 10,000 here, 10,000 there, and you don't even have a business, And here I am asking all these different places, and they're pretty much sorry, it was just impossible to get anything like that. You gotta jump through major hoops. When you could show you're a business, a small business, you should be able to get some kind of help, at least with rent. But yeah, that sucked. Because I saw that. I actually feel like I saw more people getting it that didn't need it than people who needed it, getting it. So yeah, it's like a slap in the face.
Like I said, I know a few people that got those PPPs that actually did well with their business, that helped them to stay afloat, to figure out how to pay their employees. I have a friend that owns a catering business that the family has owned for years. And he said sometimes we didn't even pay ourselves so we could kind of keep our employees paid. And that's what we use that money for. Others bought houses, they bought cars, they got boob jobs. And I'm just like, what the fuck? But can't control what other people do. I just do believe in karma.
I was very thankful for the PPP. It was very helpful. It helped us keep our doors open.
It was hard to try to find those resources and follow through with it and go through with it. Just all the paperwork you need and all the proof you need. It wasn't as easy. It was very difficult.
And you can meet all the criteria. How long you've been open? Do you have an EIN number? You know, do you have a physical address? You know, do you have a website? You know, do you have an LLC? I can go on and on. I have all those things. And they gave me a whole lot of nothing. I'm like, what else do you need? You know, you could almost be dying and you still wouldn't get no help.
Since I was little, I haven't been asking for government support. So I don't think it's necessary when when we can find ourselves a way to keep on going.
Breaking news from Pfizer. Meg Terrell joins us right now. Meg, good morning.
Good morning, Becky. This is the news that we've been waiting to hear. Pfizer and BioNTech reporting the first results from their phase 3 vaccine trial, saying that in this interim look, the vaccine showed to be more than 90% effective in preventing COVID-19 cases.
We could almost hear a national sigh of relief when the pharmaceutical company Pfizer started delivering the first doses of its vaccine across the country.
I looked at it like, this is what's necessary so everybody can get through this at the same time. Everybody get it out the way, and then you move forward after that together, you know. But that clearly didn't happen because you got one state doing this, you got another state doing that. So it's all contradicting, you know, the whole point of it all.
I think people didn't take it seriously and that they sabotaged the response. And because of that, it took way longer for us to get this thing under control. You know, you look at other countries and they, like China, they shut down and they were able to get this thing under control. We never did that. Not only that, you had people that were vaccine deniers, you know? I mean, I don't understand it. When I was a kid, I got a polio vaccine. Everybody did. Nobody said anything about it. It's just what you did. You want to go to school.
An historic victory over a dread disease is dramatically unfolded at the University of Michigan. Here, scientists usher in a new medical age with the monumental reports that prove the Salk vaccine against crippling polio to be a sensational success. It's a day of triumph for 40-year-old Dr. Jonas E. Salk, developer of the vaccine. He arrives with Basil O'Connor, head of the National Foundation for Infantile Paralysis, which financed the tests. Hundreds of reporters and scientists from all over the nation gather for the momentous announcement. Proudly on hand, too, are Mrs. Salk and the son, who received the first injections. Chief Evaluator Dr. Thomas Francis pronounces the vaccine tests up to 90% effective, and modest Dr. Salk answers newsmen's questions.
There was no cure, and all of a sudden, first of all, they would say, when it first started, oh, there's gonna be a cure. There's not gonna be a cure for years. This is gonna take a long time to come. And all of a sudden, a miraculous cure came about. I didn't trust it. I don't know what's in it. My family to this day gives me a hard time. They're like, we didn't turn into zombies. I didn't want to get the vaccine. How can I trust what seems to me lies from our government or a facade of smoke and mirrors to distract me from something else?
Supposing we hit the body with a tremendous, whether it's ultraviolet or just very powerful light. And I think you said that hasn't been checked, but you're going to test it. And then I said, supposing you brought the light inside the body, which you can do either through the skin or in some other way. And I think you said you're going to test that too. Sounds interesting. Right, and then I see the disinfectant, where it knocks it out in a minute, 1 minute. And is there a way we can do something like that by injection inside or almost a cleaning? Because you see it gets on the lungs and it does a tremendous number of the lungs. So it'd be interesting to check that. So that you're going to have to use medical doctors with. But it sounds interesting to me.
People getting COVID shots, they were getting sick.
Our data from the CDC today suggests, that vaccinated people do not carry the virus, don't get sick.
You have a COVID vaccine and people were saying, oh, you're never going to get COVID again. And they were getting COVID. So, I mean, I know it's off the subject when it comes to my business, but it did affect us in that way. It did. I had family that stopped talking to me because I didn't want to get the vaccine. People were bashing each other all over social media. You're sheep. You're an idiot. You're this. You're that. And I'm like, it was just ugly. People that I thought were like really nice. I'm like, oh my God, you're mean. People are mean, bashing each other back and forth. It doesn't make me any less if I get a vaccine or not. It doesn't make you any less if you get. That's what you believe in. That's what you believe. You're anti-vaxxers. No, I'm anti-COVID vaccine. Anti-vaxxers is, I don't have my polios, people like, well, the science. I understand the science. What was wrong with me with respecting, I just didn't trust this part of it.
The whole vaccination thing, people, oh, I'm vaccinated and I'm not vaccinated. And it was hard, because then now you got two split parties and who's right, who's wrong. And it's hard to say who's right and who's wrong because each has their own beliefs. So,
but as you know, we've done more testing than every other nation combined.
I am not at all whatsoever, a conspiracist. No, but it makes you think. How did you say when we first started the pandemic, it would take years for a cure or some kind of a vaccine? And then all of a sudden, election time comes and there's a vaccine.
The idea that everyone is protected and it's kumbaya and everything goes back to normal, I think right now is a very dangerous assumption.
At the White House tonight, President Trump is putting out guidelines for starting to end the shutdowns imposed as a result of the pandemic. Across the nation, officials have put out new numbers on COVID-19's toll in lives and livelihoods.
Coming back, it was a lot harder for us to sustain and maintain everything.
The world is at perilous point in this pandemic. We have just passed the tragic milestone of 4 million recorded COVID-19 deaths, which likely underestimates the overall toll.
People had more concerns. I feel like seeing everything that happened during COVID, people then were really more serious about it just because they really saw the impact it had. So it was a little hard. Even then to just have people have to have their mask on and having to tell them that sometimes was a little hard, but I had to do what I have to do. So it's put your mask on and sorry you can't try on clothes right now, just for the reasons of being more cautious, not just for one person but for everyone. Making sure everything was wiped down, making sure, sanitizers here, sanitizers there, making signs to, social distance. You can only do so much to try to, keep these enforcements.
People were not trusting enough of the business that they could come in and that they could come back and take their classes and as normal, because now, because it's a makeup business, we had to be covered. Now, you see, I'm wearing lipstick right now. So it's like, I had to be covered up and doing makeup on someone or teaching makeup on someone who has a cover up too. And how am I going to be teaching like skin matching if I cannot take the mask off? So it was hard for us to work in that situation.
When they lifted, you know, the law of having to be closed, and everybody shot back in here to the salon suites. And everybody but me, everybody, I believe there's like 20 some suites in here. And I was like, you guys got to know that just because he said open up doesn't mean, meaning Ducey, doesn't mean that we should open up. COVID is still real. These numbers are crazy every day. You see them on the news, thousands, hundreds of people dying. And, you know, it got to the point where I was on the phone, they're like, well, you need to come back, or, you know, you're gonna have to, you know, the rent, or, you know, you can just close it, and when you decide you want to come back to work, you can come back to work, you know. And I'm thinking, I'm like, I don't want to lose my suite, and I don't want to close my business down. So I came back. I didn't want to come back. It's kind of like, just had to come back to be able to keep my business. It's what it pretty much was at the end of the day. And right when I came back, I want to say it wasn't more than 2-3 weeks. I came in here and I could feel like I had like a cold. You know, I felt, you know, the normal symptoms. I was breaking a sweat, but it went away, achy. Nothing that I ain't never felt before. So I ended up going home, and cold just goes into one day. It ends up turning into, I could feel like something was wrong, but I just thought I was just had a bad flu. And it turned into me one night being real delusional. I mean, I was just like dizzy, hallucinating, and all that stuff is what I meant. And my fiance Stephanie, my son Alex, where they knew something was wrong, and they called the 911.
911, what's your emergency?
I ended up waking up to the fire department right in front of me, you know, and they're like, Mr. Medina, you know, you've been low on oxygen. We're gonna have to take you into the hospital. And in the back of my mind, I was, oh no, you ain't. Because I know folks who go in there don't come out. They don't. It's been happening. And then you're in there by yourself. Your family can't be in there because of COVID. And they told me, well, if you don't come with us now, you're gonna, we'll be back in about 15-20 minutes to pick you up, you know, after you die, right here in front of your family. So when they told me like that, I was like, all right, get my stuff, I'm going. So I go, and I didn't come back out after that. I ended up, you know, the COVID turned into pneumonia and all this other stuff. So they ended up intubating me, and I was in a coma for 2 months. So last July through September, I was asleep. I wake up, and I have like tube down my throat. You know, can't walk, my mouth is open, can't talk, nothing. So anyway, I'm trying to grasp what's been going on, because I knew when I was asleep that I knew something happened with my throat. I didn't know what it was. And anyway, I was just asking and praying to live, because I want to be able to be alive for my kids, my family, you know. When I finally wake up, I wake up to have to like restart life all over again. Walk, talk, breathe. I was on oxygen. I had a trach in my throat. You know, I couldn't do anything. I was bedridden until, you know, the end of 2022. And in that whole time, it affected my life drastically, because all that trauma to have went through I'm still going through it now, you know, but I don't know how long that stuff, it's gonna be there. It's all a process. My lungs are still healing as we speak.
I got COVID in January of 2022. And all I felt was a cold. That just doesn't feel right. I still had my senses. And my mom was like crying and worried about me. And I'm like, my kids and I, my husband were fine. Yes, we followed the guidelines. And I didn't work for that time. I had to shut down for a little bit because I had to follow the guidelines. But I was like, I have gotten sick like this before. This is not COVID. But a test says it's COVID. To me, this is a flu. I got a flu. There's kids with germs.
In the case of a positive result, a coloured line appears here. This is the test line. Again, even if the test line is faint, it should still be considered a positive result.
I don't think the lockdown was done efficiently or correctly. I think that it was, it didn't work the way it should have worked because people weren't willing to make the sacrifice that it was necessary to make this COVID virus under control, to get it under control.
I feel like it was necessary in the sense that, lock it down, but shut everything down completely, close the airports, people can't travel in, travel out. I feel like a lockdown, but at the same time, there were certain things that were still in effect. So I feel that we didn't really experience a real lockdown like how it should have been locked down.
I don't think it was necessary. It was mass hysteria. It was a panic. You ask people now if they want to get locked down, and I think you will have anarchy. You will have what unfortunately happened January 6th. Now this time, imagine that across the US. People were angry. People were tired. Stop closing up. People needed to go on. People needed to work.
More or less, they should have probably taken the example of Asia or whatever Asia did.
Yeah, well, what I think is the mask thing came like after months, and I think they shouldn't shut down all the business, but just request the mask, reinforce it since the beginning.
That lockdown shouldn't have not happened. They should have, wear your mask. I hated wearing the mask, but I wore it out of respect to people around me. Even when I was selling food, I wore my mask. Believe it or not, I would have people like, you don't have to wear a mask around me. But then I had people like, oh, I'm so glad you're wearing the mask. You know what? Damned if you do and you're damned if you don't.
Telling folks that they had to wear a mask, oh, they didn't like that. Oh, I don't have to wear a mask. Oh, well, you don't have to get a haircut today.
When you tell someone you can't do something, it kind of gives them that urge to actually want to do it.
Once we got a new president, I think it started to get handled a lot better. But before that, it was crazy.
Then you see China really close their borders and have a severe mandatory lockdown. And I feel like there's a couple countries that had a way better lockdown than we did. So leaders definitely make a difference.
I see people working hard and starting businesses. I see people teaching kids and serving our country. I see engineers inventing stuff, doctors coming up with new cures. I see a younger generation full of energy and new ideas, not constrained by what is, ready to seize what ought to be.
We're going to build a wall, folks. We're going to build it. Don't worry. We're going to build a wall. That wall will go up so fast, your head will spin. And you'll say, he meant it. And you know what else I mean? Mexico is going to pay for the wall.
I sought this office to restore the soul of America, to rebuild the backbone of this nation, the middle class, and to make America respected around the world again. and to unite us here at home. It's the honor of my lifetime that so many millions of Americans have voted for that vision.
People shouldn't have lost their jobs. People shouldn't have had to close down their business. I'm not just talking about the food industry, just any type of business, whatever they had going on. I think the government could have taken care of this differently. Like I said, telling me you didn't plan something out like this? You didn't have a, what if this would happen? You're ready to see if China or Russia throws a missile at us. You're telling me you're not ready for that? You are. Completely ready? Probably not, but you have some kind of a backup plan. Why didn't you have that backup plan with us if this happened? Am I proud to be an American? Absolutely. Absolutely. But I feel this government could have done more to help us out. And it would have helped out a lot of people.
I don't have a problem with the government. I pay my taxes. I thought they did a lot of things to keep people in business with the PPP and some of the other programs. So my beef isn't with the government. My beef is with the fools that propagated this myth that the vaccine didn't work.
Two questions get asked when people have hesitancy or reluctance to get vaccinated. Did you go too quickly is the first. The answer to that is the speed was a reflection of extraordinary scientific advances and did not compromise safety, nor did it compromise scientific integrity. The next question is, okay, but what about the fact, is it really safe and is it really effective? Or is this something the government is trying to put over on us? Is this something the companies want to take advantage of? Well, let's take a look at what's happened over the past few months. We've had clinical trials, and thanks to the volunteers in that trial, in tens of thousands who have put themselves on the line to prove to the country and the world that these are safe and effective products.
There was no unity. Then you had everything. George Floyd, you had the cops, Blue Lives Matter, Black Lives Matter, everybody's lives matter. And then you had this pandemic going on. I want to say 2020, 2021 was goddamn most difficult years that this country has gone through. It's not about whose life, what lives matter. Why can't we just be united again? Why can't we just respect each other? Why can't we show generosity, kindness? Why can't just be in peace? Why? Because the government doesn't want you to be in peace. The government wants you and I to be against each other. The government wants us to fight. If all these people start getting along, they're gonna come against us. No. We can't allow that. We gotta shake something around. Let's move something around over here, distract it from over here.
I don't look at life the same way I did before. I would like to think I didn't take it for granted back then, but compared to what I know now, I did. Never did drugs, nothing like that. But my perspective on life is way different. Like every day, I know no matter what should be a holiday to me because God gave me a second chance and it's here. I should have been gone. Everybody, almost anybody I know that's been in that position, it's a wrap. They're done. They're not here to be able to do an interview or see daylight, And I am. So my perspective on life is way, way different. I just want to love and all the things that would have mattered before to me don't really matter.
It's giving us a message, and I think I got the message. And this second round, I haven't had it, So because I'm really taking care of myself, I'm taking care of every single area in my life.
What it has taught me is resilience. That not even this pandemic is going to keep me down. That if nobody wants to talk to me because I'm vaccinated or not, that's a matter of opinion. That's your life choice, not mine.
It is a message, definitely. It is a message for everyone in the world. What just happened, not just, like I said, not just physically. And of course, we don't want it to touch our businesses, but it took us through a lot. It was like a hurricane, It came and it some destroyed, but to some of us, it maintained us in the middle of the eye of the hurricane. We were just looking around what was going on, and instead of reacting, we act to it.
This pandemic has really made this country into I don't even know how to explain it. It's just ridiculous.
It would be nice if a community can come together and work as one, but I feel like a lot of people here like to work against each other. And I mean, a lot has to do with competition here. There's a lot of competition. So unfortunately, some people don't see that working together goes a longer way. But hopefully one day we can get there.
Just say love one another. Just be kind. Just respect each other's boundaries. That's it. Be at peace. It's not hurting you. It's not going to hurt your neighbor. Just be at peace. That's all that matters. Can't always be using this pandemic as an excuse. Well, because of this pandemic, I'm this. Because this pandemic, I'm that. Quit blaming others. Change starts within yourself. And then others, it's like a domino effect. It'll spread out into others.